The audience inside the AGT theater buzzed with excitement as lights danced across the stage. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, his usual calm but curious expression on his face. The camera zoomed in on the entrance, and then, a tiny figure appeared. A little boy, no older than 10, slowly walked onto the massive stage. He wore a slightly oversized white shirt, a pair of worn jeans, and shoes that had clearly seen better days. But there was something in his eyes, something that made the entire crowd fall silent even before he spoke. Simon raised an eyebrow, his pen already in hand. "Hello there," he said, his voice echoing softly through the hall. "What's your name, young man?" The boy gripped the microphone tightly with his small hands. "My name is Carlo," he said shyly, his voice trembling just a bit. "I'm from the Philippines." A gentle murmur swept through the crowd. His accent was soft and sweet, but his words carried emotion. "And how old are you, Carlo?" asked Heidi with a warm smile. "I'm 10 years old," Carlo replied. Simon tilted his head slightly. 10, that's quite young. Are you nervous?" Carlo looked at the judges, then out into the audience. "A little," he admitted. "But I'm also excited. This is my dream." There was a moment of silence, one of those rare moments on AGT when you could almost feel everyone collectively holding their breath. "And what will you be doing for us today?" asked Sofia Vergara. "I'm going to sing," he said softly. "A song that means a lot to me and my family." Simon's face softened just a little. "All right, Carlo," he said. "Take your time. The stage is yours." The music began, a soft guitar intro, familiar but unexpected. And then, the unmistakable melody of Hotel California filled the air. The audience stirred, even Simon looked intrigued. But when Carlo opened his mouth to sing, something magical happened. His voice was pure, hauntingly beautiful, delicate yet powerful. It didn't sound like a 10-year-old's voice. It carried depth, emotion, and a story far beyond his years. The first line alone made the audience go completely silent. His tone was perfect, his pitch flawless, and the way he shaped each word made it feel like the song had been written for him. Simon's expression changed instantly. He leaned forward, his pen forgotten. Heidi's mouth fell open slightly. Sophia's eyes began to glisten. And within just 30 seconds, the crowd was already mesmerized. As Carlo reached the chorus, the emotion in his voice deepened. It wasn't just singing, it was storytelling. Every note carried a piece of his heart. The way he sang, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," sent chills through the entire room. It wasn't just talent, it was soul. Then came the second verse, and Carlo's voice began to soar. The band behind him added light harmonies, and the lights dimmed to gold and purple hues. The moment was cinematic, like a dream. Simon, who had seen thousands of singers, suddenly had that rare look of disbelief in his eyes. When the final chorus arrived, Carlo lifted his voice higher than anyone expected. The clarity, the control, the emotion, it all built up until the last note hung in the air like magic. Then silence. For a moment, it felt as if the world had stopped. And then the crowd exploded. Everyone stood, cheering, clapping, screaming. The camera caught Simon as he rubbed his eyes, something he didn't do often. Heidi was already on her feet, both hands over her heart. Sophia wiped a tear. Howie Mandel looked utterly speechless. Simon leaned toward his mic, his voice unusually soft. "Carlo," he said, "I don't even know what to say. That was unbelievable. You have a gift, and not just a voice, a gift that touches people." Carlo's little chest rose and fell as he tried to catch his breath. "Thank you, sir," he whispered. Heidi smiled. "You know, I've heard Hotel California hundreds of times, but I've never felt it like that before. You sang it with your heart, and I could feel every single word." Sophia added, "You're so small, but your voice fills this entire room. You made us feel something so deep. You're truly special." Simon looked down for a moment, thinking, then back up at the little boy who stood trembling on the big stage. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" he asked. Carlo smiled shyly. "From my mom," he said. "She used to sing to me when I was little. We didn't have much money, but music always made us happy. She told me that when you sing, you have to make people feel something. So, I try to do that." The audience collectively went, "Ah." The camera zoomed in on Simon again, and you could see something shift in his expression. There was a softness, a kind of pride. Simon leaned forward again. "Where's your mom now, Carlo?" Carlo hesitated, then said quietly, she's watching from heaven. The entire room fell silent again. Even the band members froze. Simon's eyes blinked slowly, his lips tightening as he processed what the boy had just said. Carlo continued softly, "She passed away last year. She always wanted me to sing here one day. So I came for her." A single tear rolled down his cheek. Heidi gasped. Sophia covered her mouth. Simon looked down again, his eyes glassy. The audience, moved to tears, began to chant softly, "Carlo, Carlo, Carlo." Simon finally spoke, his voice breaking just a little. "Carlo, your mom would be so proud of you. What you just did tonight wasn't just a performance. It was love, it was pure emotion, and I think you're going to change a lot of people's lives." Before Carlo could even respond, Simon stood up. The audience began cheering louder, sensing something was about to happen. Simon walked toward the judges' panel, looked at the golden buzzer in front of him, then looked back at the little boy standing alone on stage. "Carlo," Simon said, "I've been on this show for many years. And sometimes, someone walks in and reminds me why I started doing this in the first place. You're one of those people." Then, without another word, Simon pressed the golden buzzer. The crowd erupted into chaos. Golden confetti burst from above, showering the stage in shimmering light. Carlo gasped, covering his face as tears poured down. The music swelled, and the camera caught every angle, Simon smiling proudly, Heidi clapping through her tears, Sophia blowing kisses toward the stage. Carlo fell to his knees, his small hands clutching the microphone as the confetti rained down. He looked up, eyes shining, whispering, "Thank you, Mama." Simon walked up to the stage as Carlo continued crying. He knelt down beside the boy, put a comforting hand on his shoulder, and said softly, "You earned this, every bit of it. You've just made your mother's dream come true." Carlo looked up, speechless, and Simon gave him a reassuring smile. "Remember," he said, "never stop singing. Because when you sing, she hears you." That moment became one of the most unforgettable in AGT history. The clip went viral overnight, gaining millions of views within hours. People around the world were deeply moved by the little Filipino boy who had turned pain into beauty. Comments flooded in from every corner of the globe. "I'm crying right now. He's only 10 but sings like he's lived a lifetime." Simon pressing the golden buzzer was the best thing I've seen all year. But Carlo's journey wasn't just about a single moment. His story went much deeper. Back in the Philippines, Carlo had grown up in a small fishing village outside Cebu. His father worked long hours by the sea, often returning home with barely enough money to buy rice. His mother, Maria, loved to sing. She had once dreamed of becoming a singer herself, but life had other plans. When she became ill, the family's focus shifted to survival. Even then, she sang every night, lullabies, old Filipino love songs, church hymns, anything that made her son smile. Carlo would sit beside her, listening to her soft voice. She told him, "Carlo, music can heal the soul. When you sing, don't just make sound. Make people feel." Those words stayed with him forever. When she passed away, Carlo was heartbroken. But instead of giving up, he began to sing even more. Every morning, before going to school, he practiced in front of a mirror. Every night, he sang under the stars. Neighbors started noticing. "That boy," they said, "he has something special." One day, a local teacher recorded him singing in a small church and uploaded it online. The video spread like wildfire. People began calling him the little angel of Cebu. And months later, a talent scout saw the video and reached out to Carlo's father. "We want him to audition for America's Got Talent," the scout said. At first, his father refused. "We can't afford it," he said sadly. "We're simple people." But the community rallied around them. Neighbors raised money, small donations poured in, and even the local school helped with travel expenses. Everyone wanted Carlo to chase the dream his mother had once whispered about. When Carlo finally arrived in America, it was his first time on a plane, his first time seeing a city so big, and his first time stepping onto a stage that bright. He carried with him only one thing, a photo of his mother folded in his pocket. Before going on stage, he whispered to it, "Mama, this is for you." And that's how that magical night happened, the night that changed his life. After the golden buzzer moment, Carlo was invited to several talk shows. People wanted to know his story, his background, and how a 10-year-old could sing with such emotion. But every time he was asked, he gave the same humble answer, "I just sing from my heart." My mama taught me that. During the AGT semifinals, he performed another emotional song, You Raise Me Up. The performance brought the audience to tears again. Simon told him, You're not just a contestant anymore. You're a symbol of hope. And Heidi added, Your voice heals, Carlo. It's like an angel sings through you. The judges weren't the only ones moved. Viewers around the world started sending donations and letters to help his family back home. Carlo's village even held community watch parties every time he appeared on TV. Children began singing his songs in schools, inspired by his courage and humility. But perhaps the most emotional moment came during the AGT finals. Carlo chose a song no one expected, The Prayer. As the lights dimmed and the first note played, he closed his eyes, lifted his head, and began to sing. His voice filled the entire auditorium, and this time, it wasn't just about talent. It was about gratitude, loss, love, and faith. You could see tears streaming down Simon's face as Carlo hit the final note. When the performance ended, Simon stood up and said, Carlo, I've been in this business for a long time. I've seen stars come and go, but what you have, it's something the world needs. You remind us of innocence, hope, and love. You've made us all believe again. Though Carlo didn't win the trophy, he won something far greater, the hearts of millions. His story spread across news channels, social media, and even local papers in the Philippines. The boy who sang for his mother became a symbol of inspiration. Months later, Carlo and his father were invited back home as heroes. The entire town gathered to welcome them. As they stepped off the small ferry boat, hundreds of people were waiting, holding banners, cheering his name. Someone handed him a microphone, and Carlo, still humble and smiling, began to sing once more. The sun was setting over the ocean, and his voice carried across the water. In that moment, it felt like his mother was right there with him. In the years that followed, Carlo continued to perform, using his fame to support charities for children and families in need. If I can help other kids like me, he said in one interview, then that's the best way to honor my mama. Simon Cowell even invited him back to perform on a special AGT anniversary show, calling him one of the most unforgettable voices in AGT history. When Carlo walked on stage again, now a little taller and more confident, Simon smiled proudly and said, Welcome home. As Carlo began to sing once more, the audience rose to their feet, remembering that night years ago, the night a 10-year-old boy from the Philippines reminded the world what true talent, heart, and love really mean. And as his voice soared across the stage, everyone could feel it, the warmth, the light, and the love of a mother's dream living on through her son. That's the story of Carlo, the little boy who sang from his heart, touched the world, and proved that even in the smallest voices, there can be the biggest miracles.